Let me try that again. I don't know why this has just decided to stop working today. Okay,
Oh,
can you
there's
see
the
it?
screen.
All right, cool.
I think it's loading. No, I can't see it yet. It's
Oh,
loading.
there's a little orange triangle. Is it my Wi-Fi?
Maybe your screen is blurry.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch to a different Wi-Fi. I'm gonna hit stop again. This will make for lots of fun with the recording, with the editing.
Yes, all right. Hello and thank you for joining us again on Slow Pit Stop, where we will be discussing the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, a race won by Max Verstappen with a dominating performance from Red Bull. Tragedy again for Ferrari as neither of their cars finished. When we left Australia, Leclerc had 71 points and was 46 ahead of Max Verstappen. Now, Verstappen is in first place in the championship with 150 points and Leclerc only has 116. Mohammed, how did we get here?
Yeah, absolute tragedy for Ferrari. And Arafat, you know what else is a tragedy? My media board isn't working this week, so I can't play any random sound effects. But also, I don't think that
I was waiting for applause.
Yeah, I don't think our listeners know about the media board because we haven't released our Donuts and Drivers episodes yet. So when you get that, you'll find out all about my new soundboard, which isn't working this episode, unfortunately. But yeah, we left... or was it before Australia? And Charles Leclerc had this incredible. Everybody was like, "Yeah, he's gonna win. How could anybody catch up?" And Ferrari said, "Oh, it's not fair. We want to have a fair fight, so we're gonna sacrifice the next 3 races to let Red Bull catch up, and then we'll have a real fair fight." And so that's what happened. That's why Red Bull is ahead of Ferrari. Ferrari just wants to even the playing ground a little bit. You know what I mean?
I know. Look, Verstappen has won 5 races this year. The only other person that's won more than 1 race is Leclerc, who's won 2, and Perez, who's won 1. That's it. You've got 3 people that have won races.
What's also incredible to me is, like, during qualifying, they were saying, "Oh, if Leclerc fails to convert this pole into a win, that'll be the first time someone has failed to convert 4 straight poles into wins since." Fan of the podcast, Juan Pablo Montoya in 2002. And I thought that is such an insane statistic. There's no way Charles Leclerc is beating that record. And when he didn't win, I was like, oh my God, what era are we living in that, like, Ferrari just, I don't understand what's, okay, last week it was their fault, like fully their fault. They just absolutely blew it on the strategy. This week, it wasn't strategy. They actually went pretty bold on the strategy. They pulled Leclerc in during the virtual safety car, which I think was the right move because later he was ahead by 14, 15 seconds. And then, you felt like the race was getting lively and you're like, okay, now can Verstappen catch him? Can he catch him and not ruin his tires? Can he pass him? You're like, okay, game on. Like, this is what we're here for. And then 15 seconds in the lead and his engine blows. And it's just like, how? Like, I don't know. What was your emotion?
So many Ferrari cars' engines died. There was his car. There was a hydraulic problem with Sainz. Guan Yu Zhou's car, or Zhou Guan Yu, his car went. Well, there was another Ferrari-powered car that died, didn't there?
Yeah, so it was Magnussen, Zhou, one other person, and both Ferraris, Zhou and Magnussen.
Yeah, both Ferraris.
And it's just like, okay, 2 races ago, Australia, there was an issue with Leclerc's car. And I remember you said, I don't think that it's a reliability problem. I think it's a Ferrari engineer didn't screw it in problem. But regardless, you would think that at that moment, they would have had to make a decision like, is this power unit good for at least 2 more races? Or should we just replace the power unit? Like, okay, Monaco, don't change the power unit in Monaco because it's not a power-heavy track. But okay, we're in Baku now. You've got that ginormous straight that's, like, incredibly long. Maybe take the penalty, or it's not even a penalty. Maybe just change the power unit. Double DNF. It's, like, mind-boggling. And in the beginning of the season, we thought, oh, Red Bull's got the reliability issues. Ferrari's got the speed. I don't know now. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea.
I think what makes it even worse is we want to see competition, right? We want to see Red Bull fighting Ferrari. We don't want it to be easy. Verstappen was away in the lead like 20, 30 seconds, and Ferrari just took themselves out. And I think Verstappen's just going to run away with the championship now. When we want to see Ferrari give them a hard time, we want to see that competition. But I don't know. But speaking of competition, Red Bull told Sergio not to fight with Verstappen, even though Perez had done a great job. He'd qualified ahead of Verstappen. He initially had position, but then he had a very, very slow pit stop, 5.7 seconds or something. I think I can't remember.
Yeah, so they were trying to live up to the name of our podcast.
Yeah. But what do you think of Perez? I made a joke on the internet before that, he won Monaco, he's qualified ahead of Verstappen, and I was thinking, is this going to be the new 2016 Rosberg? Is Perez going to upset the order? But it looks like Red Bull are not going to let him do that, and he's kind of settling into a Bottas role.
Yeah, but I don't know if this was team orders necessarily. I know they said no fighting, but Verstappen really was like much faster than Perez. If it was closer, and it was like a Lando and Daniel thing, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. That I felt like team orders shouldn't have necessarily. I don't know what McLaren was doing with their team orders this week. It's like they didn't know what they were doing. But I think Red Bull was actually a little bit more justified, because when you've got one driver that is faster than the other, you don't want to risk a double DNF crash by telling them to fight. So I think it was fine in this situation. Yeah. The race pace of Perez was just lacking, like just throughout the race. He couldn't catch really Verstappen, even when he was P2 to Verstappen's P1. He didn't really catch him and like challenge him, whereas the pace he showed in qualifying, you would think that he'd be the dominant driver, but I think Verstappen just took the reins.
Yeah, I think so. I can't see Verstappen having much competition this year at all. But you mentioned there McLaren. Let's get into that. So, Daniel Ricciardo, we talked off air, me and you, about how we need to get the balance right between criticizing driver performance while remembering that all of them are a million, billion times better than either of us could ever be, and deserve their seats and are there with good reason and are very, very talented people. But there's been a lot of talk recently about Daniel's future. And we saw some interesting dynamics play out at McLaren, like you mentioned. But the background to this, there were some harsh words from Zach Brown, the team principal. Well, not the team principal, that's Andreas Seidel, but one of the big chief bosses at McLaren, CEO. Yeah, like the big boss baby. Oh my god,
we're gonna call him that.
A bit like boss baby, doesn't he?
We're gonna call him the brown
baby. So brown baby. Yeah. He came out with some words. I don't have the quote in front of me or anything, but it was along the lines of, there's been some moments of brilliance like Monza where Danny won, but otherwise, from our side, from his side, we've not really lived up to expectations. That coming from your own team boss sounds like really, really harsh words, and it makes me worry for Danny. I really like Daniel Ricciardo. I think he's a good presence to have in Formula One. How do you read Baby Brown's comments on Daniel Ricciardo as a team boss? Should he be saying things like this? Is it over for Danny?
I feel like we're getting into silly season, right? And that's sort of the theme of today's episode as well. We'll get to silly season later in the episode. But I think what he's doing is he's putting public pressure on Daniel Ricciardo. The person who knows the most right now how much he needs to fix his performance is Daniel Ricciardo. Like, he knows more than anyone else what this sport is. He knows what it means like to get dropped by a team, even though he hasn't been dropped by a team. But he knows what that feeling is, so he knows he needs to fix his performance. And I think Zach Brown saying it out loud is just an additional amount of pressure on Daniel. And so Daniel is getting older, and that means he's probably past his prime. And he knows that he can't switch to another team. He's likely going to ride out the end of his career through McLaren. It's just a question of what he can help McLaren achieve. I think it's his new generation of cars have not suited his driving style at all. And last year, the McLaren in general just doesn't suit his driving style. He's the last of the late breakers. He needs that sort of Red Bull understeery type car. And that's what he excelled in. And that's why I think Verstappen isn't as comfortable with these cars either. Perez is definitely more comfortable with this generation of cars. And I think it's because, again, it's just so different. I don't know what the future is for Daniel. And like I was telling you, we can't just sit here and say, like, talk like we're better than him, because we're not. He can drive circles around us. It's just, when it comes to him and his mindset, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
We'll get into silly season later, but I have ideas about what's going to happen to Daniel, because people are publicly asking about his contract, saying, are you going to be here with McLaren next year? And his answer isn't yes or no. It's, I have a contract to be here with McLaren next year. And we all know that a contract in Formula One doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
Because you can be bought and sold very quickly. But you're mentioning there about driving styles not really suiting people. Let's move on to our favorite driver of them all.
But what is your theory? You can't say I have a theory about Daniel Ricciardo and then move on.
Oh, I was going to bring it up when we're chatting about other drivers. I think he's going to be replaced by Gasly. I think he's going to be replaced by Gasly.
They can't see my face, but oh my god, my face was like, ah.
Okay, let's say you're Zach Brown, right? And
I'm still in shock. I feel like you just gut punched me. Okay, continue.
Yeah. Okay, so you're boss baby Zach Brown, and what two drivers are you going to put in your car? You can take them, anyone from the grid, anyone from F2. What two drivers do you want?
That's a good question.
Daniel Ricciardo is very expensive.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's the only option is Pierre Gasly. Who was rumored to lose their seat to Piastri? Oh, Nicholas Latifi. So he's not going in the McLaren. Yeah, maybe Pierre Gasly. Then what does AlphaTauri do? Because they need Pierre Gasly.
They'll find one of the Red Bull children from the Red Bull meat grinder
Yuri
situation.
Vips or something.
Yeah. They'll find someone.
Wow. Well, so what do you think Daniel's out of Formula One then? You think he's just out?
The other thought I had was Zach Brown's other option is someone who I think is doing a pretty good job, Alex Albon. And it's up to Daniel Ricciardo then whether he would do a prisoner swap and go back down the grid Williams, or leave Formula One entirely.
Wow, my God, this is like, I think I could see Alex Albon moving to McLaren. The only thing that would stop that is if Red Bull intervenes, because they have like a weird like pseudo relationship with Alex where he's still wearing their clothing.
But Red Bull want to have a whole big cozy thing with the Volkswagen Group and Audi and Porsche. And so they're going to end up becoming some sort of
McLaren hybrid.
Not sister, but cousin company of McLaren. Because the Volkswagen Group is going to put Porsche into the Red Bull, Audi into the McLaren. There's all going to be one big happy family.
Man, that's wild. I actually can see this happening, and Alex Albon has been performing really well for the most part this season. But that would be insane. Let me just say my theory for Daniel Ricciardo. I think he's going to keep his seat. I think he's going to pull some miracle out of the bag and keep his seat for one more season. But if he doesn't perform next season, I think he's out of the sport. Yeah. All right. That's my theory. Let's move on to who are we moving on to? Our favorite.
Lewis Hamilton. So I think we'll just touch on this very, very quickly, because anything that we're going to say, all of our listeners and fans know already. So there's a lot of talk going on about the porpoising, and everyone's backs are breaking. Ocon has complained, Lewis has complained, Daniel Ricciardo's complained, even Gasly has complained, even though his Red Bull overlords are sort of saying, no, porpoising, it's fine. People saying, teams are asking for changes to be made and things to the suspension, this, that, whatever. From my point of view, I think, teams shouldn't have to petition for this stuff. That was the entire point of setting up the independent group led by Ross Brawn and all these ex-F1 engineers who can look at the regulations, find problems, and they should be the ones that come out and say, actually, we need to change this. Something unexpected has happened or whatever. So I think that slightly separate group that is independent of Formula One and is independent of the teams should be helping to steer the rules and regulations to keep safety prioritized.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things at play here. One, this weekend in Baku, everyone was porpoising. I don't care what people on the internet say, because people on the internet have been saying it was just Mercedes. This is only a Mercedes problem. Mercedes
No,
had it the
everyone was
worst.
complaining. Ocon,
Everyone was
Gasly,
porpoising.
all of them were complaining.
Literally, they switched to any onboard in their porpoising, whether it be Haas, Ferrari, everyone except, honestly, I would say the only exception was Red Bull. So the question is, if one team got it right and everybody else got it wrong, should we change it and disadvantage that one team that did get it right? Because that's Toto Wolff is saying we need a change on the regulation side of things to make it so none of the teams porpoise next year at all. But Red Bull's like, hey, we made our car and we figured out the porpoising issue back in winter testing. Don't punish us for everybody else's mistakes. So that's the first question.
But I think it's fair. You know what he's saying for next year. Because like when Mercedes had the DAS system, they said, okay, you can have this now. It's going to give you an advantage. But next year, you can't have this. If they said, oh, the regulation's really bad, we're going to change it for next weekend, I think that would be unfair on Red Bull because they've clearly got it right. They've done a really good job. And they're going to be like, well, what was the point in doing this good job if you're just going to take it away from us? But to say we're going to change it for next year, I think that's fine because next year's a different challenge and you'll reap your rewards this year for the effort that you've made.
That's true, but I want to say something as a Mercedes fan. Mercedes fans have been complaining about this kind of treatment for so long that we've been getting nerfed by the FIA. We come up with party mode in qualifying, banned. Come up with DAS, banned. Come up with the suspension and the front wing stuff, banned. Everything we come up with that gives us an edge, banned. So people have been we have been complaining about that, and I understand. Like, it does seem like these regulations would only target Red Bull, really, because they're the only team that's figured it out. Well, I would support the regulations getting changed, to be clear. But if we don't do that because we don't want to target Red Bull, I think the tracks need to have some sort of change made to them. Because the reason it was so bad in Azerbaijan is because the track is bumpy itself. So Lewis was saying coming into the weekend, this is a really bumpy track. I think it's the bumpiest track that we go to. Yeah. And that made the porpoising worse for everyone except Red Bull. So I think that there needs to be a change made at the like track composition side to also minimize their porpoising, and that won't negatively affect. It shouldn't negatively affect Red Bull. If anything, it'll help them as well. The other thing I want to ask you about that I've seen on the internet, what do you think about the conspiracy theory that Toto Wolff is having Lewis Hamilton exaggerate his claims of back pain to put pressure on the FIA to change the regulations? That he is in back pain. But Toto Wolff told him, get on the radio every chance you get.
Ham it up.
Get in. Exactly. What do you think?
So, it's clearly nonsense. But the thing that really throws a wrench into the work is, okay, fine. Lewis is complaining about it. Ocon is complaining about it. Ocon has a relationship with Mercedes. Blah, blah, blah. But the fact that Gasly is complaining about it, and you know, you might say, well, he's just bitter because they gave the contract to Perez and not him. But I think if people inside the Red Bull family are complaining about it too, I think you got to take it seriously. And we can see it on the TV. You know, it's not like this weird hidden thing. Like the water bottle. We can't see that. We don't know. You know, if they started saying, oh, the water bottle's, I don't know, burning my lips or something.
Yeah.
None of us can see that, experience that, know that. But we can see the bouncing. So we can be like, yeah, of course this is bad for you. Like Ferrari's complaining about it. Sainz is complaining about it. So... yeah, Christian Horner's just being annoying again. Okay,
I've got another question for you. So both of us are like in the medical field, right? And so something I was thinking about last night is if I was the team doctor at Mercedes and I had to do some voodoo magic on his back to get it ready for Canada, I was thinking one of the things I do is like a prednisone taper, like a steroid taper. I know you don't do that.
Stop giving everyone steroids.
Well, so
oh
I know.
My God. Why are Americans giving everyone steroids?
That's not the question. Okay. Yes, in America, we give steroid tapers. They're very effective.
Oh, doctor, I twisted my ankle. Have some steroids.
It works. It works. It gets the job done. God. The pain is gone. It's better than an opioid. Anyway, the point is, if the team doctor gave that to Lewis, would it show up on a steroid, on a urine test? Would that come up as a steroid? And would he not be allowed to race?
So I don't know about the rules of doping versus not doping, what you're allowed and not allowed. Like I know they're not even allowed to take Lemsip, you know, like cold medicine.
Oh wow.
Because there's components in it that are on the WADA list. So
Yeah.
Formula One follows the IOC, the International Olympic Committee. So if I just Google WADA prednisolone, of course Americans like to give prednisone to everyone to just double the dose and just
Listen, it's effective. There's almost no side effects that we like to tell our patients. So
yeah, you just give everyone everything. I just don't get it. Right. Formation of prednisone and prednisone.
we give medicine out like it was free, which is ironic because it's very much not
It's
free.
very not free.
It's
You're
very
just like,
not
here, take
free.
this. If your bones break and you get diabetes, whatever. WADA recently released prednisolone within 10 days of a competition. So within 10 days of competition, unless you have a very good reason, apparently.
Well, I think 4 herniated discs is probably a good reason. Dude, when he went on the radio and he's like, the seat has gone cold, I was like, oh my God. He's lost all sensation in his back.
Oh, here, look. Everything is banned. Glucocorticoids are only permitted when administered by inhalation, intranasal, ophthalmic, or dermal. So basically, for skin conditions, for asthma, for...
So there's no oral formulation on there?
No, it says oral, intramuscular, intravenous, buccal, gingival, and sublingual are all banned.
All right, well, I will come up with some intranasal formulation of prednisone that can target his spine. I'll do it for you, Lewis. I'll do it.
Why are we resorting to cheating? What has happened?
It's not cheating. It's his back hurts, and prednisone helps bring down the inflammation. It's not.
Give him a massage.
Yeah, he said he got the massage from Angela, and he got his acupuncture done. So he said he's feeling a little better this morning. Yeah. I hope.
No, he's releasing loads of positive messages. I know. I keep saying my only wish is that he wins one race. It's looking less and less and less likely. I think what I'm taking comfort in is he seems to be releasing lots of positive messages and positive noises. And actually, no matter what happens this year or next year or whatever, what he has achieved can't be taken away. And you look at people like Daniel Ricciardo, who there's no reason why he couldn't have won a championship at some point, but for whatever reason, he was in the wrong team, the wrong time, luck didn't work out. And, Lewis could have very easily stayed with McLaren and gone through all those terrible years and then moved to Ferrari when Vettel did instead, and then had terrible time at Ferrari. And all these things could have happened to Lewis, and he could have had none of that success. But when we were working in hospitals through COVID and things were tough, we were able to tune in to the TV most Sundays and watch Lewis win, and that was great for us. And now it's not happening. We're supporting Ferrari, and we're understanding what it's like to be patients with high blood pressure. But we'll get there. But yeah, no, I'm much more zen about Lewis's reality at this moment in time.
Well, I think he will win one in the second half of the season.
I hope so. I want to, but I'm not going to be upset if he doesn't, because I think he's still putting in the performances to the best of his ability, and I appreciate and understand the external factors that are limiting that.
Well, the reason I think he will is just because he tends to reset over the summer break, and I feel like the first half of the season. So he said that when he was in junior series, he'd get 1 year to learn the car, 1 year to win the championship. And I think
so. I think he's a slow learner with the cars. Like, even
exactly.
Look at, when things changed with Rosberg and things, he was always a bit behind the first season.
Yeah, so I think literally the first half of the season is his learning phase, and the second half of the season is his, okay, I learned it, now let me come back. Like, when you look at last year, his losing streak or whatever was almost all in the first half of the season. And then the second half of the season was him roaring back to life. I think we can see one, at least a few more podiums. You know what it comes down to with him is learning to qualify better with the car, because if he qualifies ahead of George, all of these surprise podiums are his. So that's, I think, really
the caveat to what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying, but the caveat is, right now, I'm not sure if he's even learning this car. I think he's just trying to survive.
No, I think he's learning. I definitely think he's learning.
Obviously he's not going to go. But what I mean is, I don't think he can learn as quick as he normally would, because they're just trying to dial out this problem before they're trying to dial the car into its optimum place. But should we quickly take a quick break to say hello to our sponsor and talk about them, and then we're going to come right back with the big discussion that Mohammed put on Twitter that all of you have been getting involved in.
Right. So We have our ongoing promotion going on with Little Prince 3D, and they have been so kind as to send us 3 additional tracks. So we've got one for Baku, Canada, and Silverstone, and we're going to be sending those out to our Fantasy F1 winners, which we'll get to at the end of the episode. But if you didn't win, and if you just want a fancy track on your wall anyway, definitely check them out on Etsy, Little Prince 3D. Use code SLOWPITSTOP to get 10% off. I know I've been talking about this every week, but I genuinely really like their track. It's come out. It's really nice, and I have it on my wall, and I want to order a few more from them. So everybody that's listening, if you want like a nice, cool 3D printed track, definitely give them a look. They are very good.
You know what I'll say about them? They're quite light, and they look like they should be able to break. But my 18-month-year-old daughter has not been able to break them. So they're actually very, very strong, and I'm very impressed.
I'm really impressed with the size of them, because if it's too big, I don't have like a lot of wall space to put like a giant track. And I thought it was going to be really small, but it's not really small. It's like a really solid in-between middle size that I'm really happy about. And I think
what I'd say to people is, it's that right medium size that you should probably pick your favorite 3 circuits, and you'll be able to put them all next to each other. It looks great. I've got 3 in my living room, and it looks really, really good.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's move on to Twitter.
So, Mohammed, you put out a question on Twitter this week. What was it?
Yeah, my question was, because it's about to be silly season anyway. Some of the talks have already started, and I know me and you have been talking about who's going to keep their seat, who's not going to keep their seat. So I wanted to pose the question to our fans. It was, keep one driver in F1, but the other 3 lose their seats. And the drivers I had were Alex Albon, Mick Schumacher, Daniel Ricciardo, and Lance Stroll. I wanted to pick 4 drivers that weren't like slam dunk answers. Like, I know if I put Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, like that's like a little easy, or like Lando Norris. So I wanted to pick drivers who maybe were at risk of losing their seats, and see what people said. And I think we had some interesting responses. But before we get into that, Arafat, who would you keep if it meant the other 3 lost their seats?
Oof. I'll tell you what, I'm going to listen to all the responses. Well, I'll tell you my answer first, and then let's see if everyone else can change my mind. So my heart would want to keep Daniel Ricciardo, but my head, if I was a team boss, the person I would keep is Alex Albon.
Okay, so I also said Alex Albon, just because he's been given another lease on life, and he seems to be performing well. But here's my other question to you before we get into the responses. Who do you think of these 4 got almost no love from our fans?
Oh. Well, so personality-wise, Daniel Ricciardo is extremely lovable. He's like a dog, but as a human. So everybody likes Daniel Ricciardo. Alex Albon is fun. He's nice. Mick Schumacher he's not even vanilla. He's just plain bread. Like, you can't like him, but you can't dislike him either.
His dad.
And I think... Huh?
His dad.
Well, yeah, his dad. But yeah, him, personality-wise, he's just plain bread. Lance Stroll, I think, as a person, actually is fine, but I think people dislike him because he comes from money. So I'm assuming he was the one that got the hate.
So the one who got... Well, nobody got hate, but the one who got the least amount of love was Mick Schumacher, surprisingly. I thought Lance Stroll would be the one with the least amount of love, but almost no one stuck it out for Mick. So just based on, if we had done a poll, Mick would have lost his seat based on the poll. Okay, let's get into the responses though. So we have a lot, and there's a chance I won't get to you. If I don't get to you, our full extended, unedited episode is on YouTube, and I lie when I say unedited because we've had quite a couple of AV issues that we're going to edit out. But that's going to be on YouTube.
Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you see me?
It's been like that for 20 minutes, and we're just going to try and cut that out. So the extended portion of this part of the podcast will be on YouTube. If you do hear everyone, that means that I fit it all in, and we just have one cut that's going on Spotify. So let's roll the dice and find out. So at Elisa Ferrari said, I messed up her name 2 weeks in a row. She said, I would keep Ricciardo for sure. There's some Ricciardo love. At Mansi Verma said, replace Albon with Latifi, and then my answer is Daniel Ricciardo 3. Listen, Mansi, you can't change the rules of the game, okay? At Oxyurus, Mark Johnson said 100% keep Daniel Ricciardo. There's literally no competition. The other 3 put together still don't have his ability, skill, and personality. Yeah, they don't have his personality, but I think people might argue with you on his skill and ability. At F1 Blag, a previous guest on our episode and friend of the podcast said, oh man, he said something incredible. He said, let's hope for Albon that his savings aren't gone. Pray for Mick that his girl ain't no trick. Wish for Lance that he was paid in advance, cause we're going to stick with Danny Rick. Nice. I give you points for rhyming.
Yeah, I think rhyming deserves lots of points.
Absolutely. Lynn of Earth said, keep Alex all day long. Love Daniel, but he's really struggled to find a match. Maybe a change will make him happier. Lance should take a year out and be test and sim driver to refocus. Mick just needs time and more experience, so I think he should try touring cars or similar. I'm laughing because the idea that Daniel will be happy outside of Formula One somehow makes me laugh. But people have said he would really thrive in NASCAR, so maybe that's where he should go next year.
I think so, yeah.
Like how we always said Valtteri should go to endurance or rally after he's done with Formula One, but he just went to...
I think Sergio Perez would be a really good endurance driver. He takes care of the car, he takes care of the tires.
Yeah.
And I think in an endurance race, I think his race pace would be much better than sprint racing.
Definitely think so. He is tire management. At Valeria from Rome said, out of my personal opinion, based on him speaking openly about some hot topics, I'd keep Stroll, and she was referring to Lance Stroll being one of the only drivers to speak out against Abu Dhabi, which I respect. And M. Kiva Yu said, please keep Daniel, but get him a better car to drive. Where is he going to go, M. Kiva? What team is going to take him? Arfa, is there a team higher up the ladder than McLaren that would take Daniel?
So he's not going to go back to Red Bull. Mercedes he's not going to go to. I always think it's a real shame that the Ferrari thing didn't work out because he could speak Italian, he's of Italian heritage. I think that would have been brilliant. But I see no reason for Ferrari to get rid of Leclerc or Sainz.
But get rid of Sainz and pick up Daniel? Sainz has been disappointing this year.
Yeah, but I think if, for us viewers at home, we can tell actually it's just lots of external things going wrong for him. He's been unlucky. I think intrinsically he still has speed and he still has years of potential ahead of him.
But so does Daniel.
Yeah, but not as much as Sainz.
Okay,
I think if the Ferrari moment was going to have happened for Ricciardo, it would have been a few years ago.
Okay, fair enough. At Grant Rivers at Snow and Beach said, Ricciardo all day long, he just needs a car capable of driving for the points. Again, but he has a car capable of driving for the points. You know, I feel like he's got that.
I know, but it's a car that fits him. You know, we're talking about fits like a glove.
Yeah.
Right now, Ricciardo's got his hand inside a shoe.
Yeah. I almost want to make that the title of the episode.
We should, yeah.
I was going to go with my Baku is killing me, but maybe I'll change it to Ricciardo's got his hand inside his shoe.
A shoey, it fits. His whole shoey thing.
I know. Okay, Ralph Selwan said, Albon stays. My vet will travel. At Dr. Holly DVM said, gotta keep Daniel. That's really cool that her vet will travel. I find that impressive.
To where? To everywhere?
Just travel. Her vet will go on vacation when you need her the most. The angry engineer said, honestly, right now, I'd keep Stroll. See, Stroll had some love. Number one, he isn't blind to blue flags. Number two, he isn't costing his team millions in crash damage. Not that it would matter. It's just his dad's money anyway. And number three, he's not getting dunked on by an overrated Twitch streamer and hasn't obviously upset the team. You know what? Angry engineer, you'll lose points for calling Lando Norris overrated. He is rated. He's not underrated and not overrated. He's just rated. What do you think, Arafat? You like the Stroll love?
Where's the lie in the rest of it, though? Apart from crashing at Baku this week, causing one bit of damage, which I didn't expect because he is captain 90 degrees. You know, he should do well here, Monza, and nowhere else really. And I'm looking forward to Las Vegas from him. Where has the angry engineer gone wrong? I agree with a lot of this. Okay,
good job, angry engineer. At Moon Tinker, V said Stroll. If not him, then Daniel. And I think that's kind of the vibe I've been getting from a couple of different people, that Lance Stroll is actually performing pretty well this year. Tashady the Evolver said number 23. That's Alex Albon. Lee Newham said keep Daniel. Georgina Donna, friend of the podcast and host of Stripping the Dipping. She said, Danny boy. Stripping the dipping. Dripping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it dripping or dipping? Hold on, let's double check.
Dripping.
But I do want to shout her out correctly.
Is it dipping or dripping?
It's dipping.
Georgina.
Stripping the dipping. The dripping! Oh no! Alright,
Is it dipping or dripping?
It's dripping with an R.
No, it's dipping. I found it. Dipping.
No, I'm looking at her Apple podcast. It's stripping the dripping.
But I'm looking at YouTube and it says stripping the dipping.
On her settings, it says stripping the dripping. In her, like the rest of it, it's dipping.
Oh, Georgina, what are you doing to us?
Just keep any of those cuts.
Yeah.
I don't know. So she's a Danny boy. And Citizen Erased _O said, I can't believe it has come to this for Daniel Ricciardo 3. Yeah, me too, Citizen Erased. Me too. Damn shame, man. Also, Latifi deserved to be in this list than all these guys. That said, keep Albon. I know Latifi deserved to be in this list, but I didn't put him in because that would have been a very easy answer.
Too easy,
yeah, exactly. Michael Haler 17 said, this is great. The hot take is you could argue that all four can lose their seats and no one would be too upset. The better question is, which four, if you do you bring in to replace them that are an actual upgrade? I like the cut of this guy's jib. We might bring him in for an episode to discuss this because that is a whole topic. Arafat, do you have a 10-second answer?
No, I agree. I think if you're dropping these guys, you're having to replace with the best of Formula 2.
Yeah.
Or Hulkenberg.
Yeah. If you're going to drop Daniel Ricciardo, it makes no sense to me to bring Nico Hulkenberg back in.
No, of course not.
No,
yeah. I think if you're dropping Ricciardo, you're looking to take Gasly.
Yeah, okay. Bodybuilding for Arab said Daniel Ricciardo number 3. At Top Sauce number 1 said Albon. At Lisa Brandon 06 said Danny. At Glenn Phillips said the one that's won races, Daniel Ricciardo. See, he's got the history. At William Ward said the avocado. I don't actually know what that means.
So there was a small child that thought Daniel Ricciardo was called Daniel Avocado and kept calling him Daniel Avocado. And then it became a meme and a video and they let the kid meet Daniel. It was a whole thing.
At Sue 991261, is that her social security number? Sue, have you put your social security number in your Twitter handle? I'm not going to say your name just in case that's your social security number. It has the correct number of digits, but she said keep Daniel. At Musty Audio at a Total Shunt, who is a friend of the podcast. Lee. I know. I'm very excited from 3 Legs, 4 Wheels. We love your podcast, Lee. I hope you listen to us and hear us shout out your name. He said, Albon, the rest can be fed to the younglings. He's definitely having some Darth Vader vibes right there. Definitely feed them to the younglings. F1 Teeter at F1 is but doesn't say what it is. He said, Albon, he's done phenomenal and is putting Russell-like performances in. Jed B said, I'd keep Albon. He has solid racecraft and has a lot of potential for the future, and he's managed to deliver results in the Williams that I doubt the other 3 could. He doesn't crash as much and is not off the pace of his teammate. Okay, listen, Jed, you had me going until you said that. His teammate is Nicholas Latifi. Okay, I would not be much off the pace of the teammate. He was like 47 seconds off Albon at one point, you know.
Amazing. Before we hit record, Mohammed's like, maybe we shouldn't be too mean to Latifi. You know, he's a professional driver. He's obviously doing a good job. It's hard. We don't know all these things. Second we hit record, I'm faster than Latifi.
It's my American heritage. I have to dunk on Canada. I have to. At the Optimist 12 said Albon probably. At V Plishkin said Albon is doing a decent job and this is his first year. Okay, but it's not his first year. I know you put that in quotes, but it's not his first year. At El Guraba 013 said Danny Rick, obviously. At Pranusha Reddy said, I want Mick and Stroll to stay, but for different reasons. And I told her that she has to choose one. She can't say Mick and Stroll. And she said, okay, although I really like both Mick and Stroll, I'd want Mick to stay because I feel like we haven't seen his true potential. So would like to give him another year, only because you made me choose. So she was the only one who shouted out Mick Schumacher, and she did it because I put a gun to her head. Good job, Mick Schumacher. You've got a massive fan base out there. Awesome. At Marcel F1 said Daniel. At DTS Hanger said Albon. At Stephanie at Schleif Preferred said based on Daniel.
Schleiferd. I don't know what Schleif means, but Ferd is horse, right? P-F-E-R-D.
Don't pretend like I, as an American, know that P and F make some H sound. Come on.
No.
Why would I know that?
It's just F. You just ignore the P. It's like a silent P.
Schleif P Herd.
No, Schleiferd.
Schleiferd. Is that like a city?
Ferdstrasse. No, Ferd is a horse, isn't it?
I don't
I'm gonna
know,
find out
but
what Schleif means.
I hope that if she's listening in, she's not very offended at me trying to say her name. She said based on talent, Daniel, based on everything else, Lance. I guess that's true. I guess he hasn't been that bad. Or maybe I'm being brainwashed by these Twitter people. Delta T Racing said, as much as we love Daniel, the only one of these four that has performed decent this season has been Alex Albon. Yep, and we have two more. If at Silky Fluke said, Albon, no! And voting and abortion at Larson_Janelle said, you have to keep Daniel Ricciardo because his smile makes up for bad driving. But I don't know if the teams will see it that way, voting lady. I don't know.
I've looked up Schleiferd. It means bow horse.
Okay, what is a bow horse? Is it like a horse with a bow on it?
Yes.
Please, she needs to get on this podcast or at least DM us and explain what her Twitter handle means because we don't get it.
Bow horse. This might be a surname. What is a bow horse? A horse bow is a compact recurve bow. Since they're shorter than their many other bow styles, they were commonly used on horseback.
Okay, this still... What?
Like a bow and arrow, but like a long bow gives you long distance, whereas if you're sat on the back of a horse, you can't carry a big thing like that. You have a much shorter bow, so you can shoot left and then turn and shoot right. Because if you had a really long one, you just smack the horse in the head with it.
I didn't know that. Do you think she's like an archer in real life?
Next week on Slow Pit Stop, we are joined by German Legolas.
Awesome, incredible. So, Arafat, has any of that changed your mind for your answer? To remind you, the four drivers are... I'll just rename the four drivers.
Yeah.
It's Daniel Ricciardo, Mick Schumacher, Alex Albon, and Lance Stroll.
The only thing that is making me maybe change my mind is the fact that lots of people are talking about Daniel Ricciardo being past his peak. And in real life, the actual age difference between me and Daniel is only a couple of days. And so... so there's a bit of me that wants to defend him just to be like, I'm not old. But I think if I was a team principal, Albon would be the one I'd want.
Yeah.
Because you'd get 5 years out of him, no problem.
It's curious to me what's going to happen with Mick Schumacher because, you know, if he can perform well, he maybe can move up to Alfa Romeo and take Bottas' spot when he retires. But it's all about his performance level relative to Magnussen, and he's been struggling, you know. With Daniel Ricciardo, it's just going to be, you know, a game that he plays, a political game, because I think he has it in him to keep his seat. It's whether or not he's able to do that. Alex Albon is back in Formula One. He's given his second lease in life the way Magnussen sort of was. I think we're going to see him for a while. And Lance Stroll is going to be there till the day he dies because his dad is running the company. So...
I think eventually Lance Stroll should go off and be an Aston Martin driver in the World Endurance Championship. I think he'd do well there. There's less media pressure.
Okay. So, I think he will do really well there. Do you know why I think that?
Tell me.
Because Brandon Hartley won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and Marcus Ericsson won Indy 500.
Yeah, Brandon Hartley's won Le Mans a few times, hasn't he?
I didn't know that, but regardless, these are failed F1 drivers who are winning the other two in the Triple Crown of Motorsport, which is incredible to me. Like, how much harder must Formula One be that when you leave Formula One as a, you know, driver that didn't quite make it, you win these other massively legendary races?
I think the difficulty is, like, Brandon Hartley drives for Toyota, right? So they are the best team in Le Mans. And when he was in Formula One, he was in Toro Rosso. And the real question is, how would he have performed if he was in a Red Bull or a Ferrari or a Mercedes? I suppose the flip side of that is, well, why did he not get himself into a Mercedes or a Ferrari or a Red Bull if he really was that good? So I think it's very difficult to compare and contrast. You know, he was a development driver for Mercedes at one point. He was a development driver for Ferrari. He was obviously a driver for the Red Bull family. So all three of the big teams have employed him and used his services. So he's clearly very good at his job. But for whatever reason, he's not quite, you know...
He doesn't have that political tenaciousness to jump teams like what I want Daniel Ricciardo to do. To keep his seat
but
alive.
maybe he just doesn't have that last bit of skill to make it as the driver. If you compare it to other sports, sometimes you get people who are very, very good players, but they don't go on to make good coaches because their skill set is slightly different. Whereas you get people that have very average careers as players, but go on to be amazing coaches because from a knowledge point of view, they're so skilled.
Like Toto Wolff and Christian Horner.
Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe Brandon Hartley is better than them. Interested.
So sad. So with that said, you want to talk about Fantasy F1 and who we would bring into our teams if we had full creative control?
So who was our winner this week? It was Stylianos P from Greece. They raced under a Greece flag. Who knows where they're actually from? And their team was called Honda F1 2022. Their team was made up of Verstappen, Perez, Gasly, Vettel, and Norris. I think off the top of my head, the team that they picked was Aston Martin. I did terribly. I'm still Ferrari heavy. How was your team?
So I did relatively not as bad as last week. I'm not 28 in the league. I scored, how many points did I score? 124 points, which seems bad, but whatever. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And I think I'm overall, I'm not too upset.
Very good.
Stylianos has got his Honda F1 2022. Oh, Stylianos.
So get in touch with us on Twitter and we'll send you your prize. Just before we end, should we name our highlight of the weekend? I think there can only be one.
What's your highlight of the weekend?
I think you can guess what I'm going to talk about. It involves Yuki Tsunoda.
Oh yeah, the black and orange flag waved. I don't think I've seen it waved.
I can't remember. I was trying to think. Have I seen it before? And I don't really remember.
And the reason I know what it is because like a couple of races ago, I think in Miami, they waved it for the W Series to have one of the cars come in and fix their like mirror or something that was broken. And so I was like, oh, black and orange flag in Formula One. They're not going to actually fix it. The car's going to retire. He pulls into the pits and these guys run out with duct tape and they just start furiously duct taping it. And they send them out. And Yuki Tsunoda, I'm pretty sure, gets on the radio and he's like, are you kidding me? And then the FIA manager or whatever is like stomping down to the AlphaTauri garage. Like, I said, that's not fixing it. And they're like, hey, we only have to fix it. We don't have to retire our car. And he's not going to use points, the DRS anymore. So we're all good.
Jeez. Incredible.
One of the most incredible moments in Formula One I couldn't believe it.
The pinnacle of motorsport. That's what this is. The pinnacle.
Well, in like NASCAR and stuff, if there's like a dent in the car, they have like hammers they'll use to like hammer out the dent.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
So I guess that's what we are trying to do. I think, was that my moment of the race as well? Or do I have another moment of the race? I think
that might be anything better than that.
What do you think is going to happen moving forward with Ferrari? That's what I want to ask you. Moving forward,
they'll win some races. They'll duff the championship. They won't win the championship. They're too inconsistent.
Wow. Do you think so? You're just calling it out Red Bull?
They'll Ferrari the championship. Perez will finish
P2?
second.
Wow.
Yeah, in the championship. Leclerc will finish third. Sainz will finish fifth.
Well, hold on. So if Ferrari can't win the Constructors, does Mercedes have a chance at P2 in the Constructors? They're only about 30 points down, 35
Yeah, I
points
think
down.
so. I think it really depends on the second half. Depending on how Sainz gets a handle of this car and how the Mercedes car improves to the point where Lewis Hamilton essentially becomes competitive again. Really competitive again. And can, unleash the full potential of that car. I think then you have a fight between Ferrari and Mercedes, whereas I think all the trophies and things are going to go to Red Bull.
Okay. All right. Well, that's depressing as hell. But coming up next episode, why Mercedes is doomed forever and why we will be sad for the rest of our lives. Listen in, everybody.
Thank you.
Where do we go next? We go to Canada next. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.